The quorum, Madam Vice
Thank
President.
you. And we welcome everyone attending this morning, both in person and online. We want to ensure all members of the public can access our meeting, so if you need any translation services or accommodations, we encourage you to contact the board secretary in advance of our meetings, as explained in our written agenda. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. We welcome feedback from the public during the public comment period, which will be heard during item 2 on the agenda. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. You can speak to any item on the agenda or any matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. As explained in the written agenda, each member of the public can have a total of up to 3 minutes to speak if they wish to speak on both agenda items and general public comment. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom. While we welcome public attendance at our meetings, disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. Anyone disrupting the meeting will receive just one warning, and if you continue disrupting the meeting, you will be asked to leave or you will be removed from the meeting. At this time, we will move to item number 1 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of Police. Chief Moore.
Good morning, Commissioner Vice President Shields, Commissioner Briggs, Commissioner Calanche. If I could ask your indulgence, I actually left my book upstairs. I'm just getting it right now. Can we go to public comment and then return back to my report?
Sure.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, will you start the public comment section? We'll go to item number 2 on the agenda.
The first speaker is Piggy.
One of the television interviews, the chief of police, actually, Chief Moore mentioned 2018, 2019, that was the lowest crime occurred, for the past several decades, and I definitely agree with that point because in the several years earlier, I actually do not have to witness looting and rioting on a regular basis. I don't have to witness the assault on the metro train on a regular basis. I don't have to look at several people just sleep on the bus, sleep on the train, or either they just died or passed out on the street or on the bus. So somehow I'm sensing there's some sort of a normalization of crime, because before I remember that when you take something from the store, that the LAPD will arrest you. But right now, it seems like as long as you do that below $950, LAPD doesn't even care anymore because of whatever law legislature anymore. So it will promoting the looting and the rioting. And it is a good news that Chief Moore reported there's a busting of several huge organized crime rings. So that's definitely something very good, very positive. We continue that. But the problem is that those petty theft, those small problems, somebody go to a liquor store in my neighborhood and then take 2 bottles of beer and then they run away. LAPD never have a time to deal with that. Somebody in a late night evening with an illegal firearm, just rob a taco stand, rob a food truck for $300. LAPD will never have time to deal with that. But those are the things that are occurring every day, every hour, every now and then. And then in the past, I actually, last week, I was not able to finish. I was talking about a commissioner president. When you are not able to control the law and order in this meeting room, there's no way you can control law and order in the city of a 4 million population. And I have heard right now there's a huge search of our permanent next LAPD chief. Our school actually is also doing the same thing. We are searching nationwide for our next superintendent president. Our hiring committee are continuously to playing identity politics. Our hiring committee talking about every day that we must have a black superintendent. We must have a female superintendent instead of based on meritocracy, performance, leadership, experience,
all those matters has nothing to do with your skin color or your ethnicity.
Next, we
Okay,
have
so-
Jamie Cusick.
Oh, actually, Madam Secretary, we will revert back to item number 1 on the agenda. And Mr. Foster, please refrain from clapping during the meeting. So we'll return to public comment after the chief completes item number 1. Thank you.
Again, thank you for your indulgence on that. As I do each week, I'll speak briefly about significant events. We'll talk about our crime picture as well as our personnel strength. Regarding significant events this last week, I want to thank the Historical Society. This past Saturday night was our annual Jack Webb Awards dinner, where we were able to recognize the accomplishments of Commission President Suthers, and he was in attendance, as well as Mayor Bass, and she spoke both in support of his award, but also more broadly her support of the men and women of this department, as well as the existence of this historic site and a real jewel of Los Angeles Police Department, which is a privately ran museum that reflects the artifacts, our history, both the good and bad, over the last 150 plus years of this department's operations. It was well attended by more than 500 guests, and the night was a wonderful opportunity to come together and celebrate, as well as raise important funds for the continuation of that museum. It is unique across American policing. Building of the original Northeast, or what's known as then at the Eagle Rock Division Station, built in 1925. It closed in 1983. As I made in my remarks, it was actually the first police station I worked in 1982 as a young police officer, briefly, and then it's since 2001 has served as our police museum. Also, this last week, our continued work regarding our efforts to secure the Ocean View Plaza complex. We continue to have a 24-hour-a-day presence of a number of uniformed officers, as well as other efforts to thwart those that are, well, for lack of a better term, hell-bent on getting inside that location. Since our operations have begun, we've now made 18 arrests, including felony vandalism charges, as well as the possession of a firearm. The department is aware of the recently published video depicting base jumpers from the top of that building. I am encouraged by Mayor Bass's leadership with that of the council that today is meeting to establish a funding source to provide for the barricading of that site to improve its safety, as well as to fortify the fence that has been repeatedly vandalized as efforts of individuals to gain access to that complex. And with that also will be a presence of uniformed security officers, which will allow us to move away from that site. To date, we've spent more than 3,000 hours of our personnel at that site. It is as you're well aware, a very large complex, and so it does take a number of police resources. And each night we're seeing, we're seeing people who are traveling here, as well as local residents that are attempting to enter that facility. It's a very dangerous site. It's one that has many perils, fall hazards, as well as the incomplete construction poses significant dangers to anyone who's inside that site, as well as the safety of that building and the risks to the surrounding areas continue. So it is my hope that next time we meet, that we're going to see significant progress on mediating the dangers that site poses. Additionally, moving next, we had no categorical uses of force during this last reporting period. And on Friday, we published the name of the involved officer from the earlier central officer-involved shooting that I had reported on last week. And given the interest that we've seen centering around that incident, in which this individual had in his possession what turned out to be a white plastic fork, I made the decision that I'm going to publish that video earlier than our typical, 45 days as a matter of policy by this board, 30 days as a matter of practice this last year. And it's my intention to have that video posted by next Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, in an effort to provide the public with more insight about what our investigation knows today and what the actions of those involved in that tragic outcome, what those actions were as found on and depicted on body-worn video and the other information we've gathered. Year to date, With that, with no officer-involved shootings or categoricals this last week, we stand at 3 officer-involved shootings this year. That's one of them is a fatal. Last year, that number was 4 officer-involved shootings, with 2 of those being fatal. Our 4-year average is just over 3 officer-involved shootings and just over 1 fatal at this time of year. Moving next to our crime picture, we are beginning to see a pattern develop of a sustained reduction in violent and property crime, which I'm happy to report. The one challenge in that is in our robberies. Our robberies are up just under 9% year to date. As I reported a couple weeks ago, primarily that's occurring in the South Bureau and Central Bureau. We are seeing an increase in robberies involving firearms. In regards to they make up about approximately 1/3 of all robberies today. That number is substantially higher than in years past, so the presence of firearms in our community is still a significant challenge. In regards to homicides, we have 32 homicides year to date versus 34 last year. That's a reduction of 2. Total violent crime is a 3.9% reduction. On the property crime front, motor vehicle thefts continues to be a challenge for us. Overall, property crime is down 10.8%. That's more than 1,300 fewer crimes. Significant reductions are in the theft from vehicle category and personal thefts. However, motor vehicle thefts have just under a 7% reduction. Again, remind the public, particularly if they're an owner of a Hyundai or Kia, made between the years of 2014 to approximately 19, is that the department has steering wheel locks that they can acquire from us at no cost. They are in limited supply, but we are encouraging owners of those vehicles, which are frequently targeted today because of known shortfalls in their security systems, to take advantage of those physical locks to thwart individuals that would break in the car and attempt to steal it. Lastly, this morning there was, it's being widely reported about a series of homicides that occurred within a 3-hour period in the LA County area, particularly in the South LA County area, in the areas of Bell, Cudahy, and Huntington Park. The department is working closely with the Sheriff's Department and their homicide to understand the nature of those 4 homicides that occurred within those 3-hour period of time. At this point, we have identified no associated violence in LA. However, we are going to continue to work with the Sheriff's Department to understand the nature of their investigation. There is some preliminary understanding that these 4 may have an interrelationship to one another involving similar suspect descriptions. And lastly, I'll speak of our personnel strength. We stand at 8,966. That's 327 below our stated authorized strength. We started an academy class of 33 yesterday. We continue to have challenges in regards to fielding our academy classes. We do have 260 applicants today that are what we consider Tier 1, which on the basic initial review of their background and qualifications, they appear to be promising, very promising, and finding their way eventually to an academy seat. In regards to our civilian population, our civilian professional workers, we have 2,618. That's 280 below. The city is, and as a department also, is being impacted by a slowing down of hiring, as well as promotions and upgrades in their civilian work class, other than our custody services and our professional, and our police service representatives. And that is, given the emerging challenges on a fiscal basis, the city in its efforts to ensure that there's sufficient funds to meet the workforce of today is slowing and is reviewing any vacancies on a case-by-case basis. The department will participate. Obviously, we're a member of that engagement. And as we look at garage mechanics and management analysts and other critical positions, we'll be applying for those vacancies to be filled, particularly in areas where the job would otherwise be done by a sworn member of the organization, which depletes our field force, or impacts us operationally, for instance, in the sense that garage mechanics provides for us to not able to fill the number of black and whites that are needed for our daily patrols. So it's an area we're watching carefully and paying a great deal of attention to. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Chief. And we'll start with any questions from the commissioners. Commissioner Kalanche?
Sure, thank you. Chief, quick question about the resources. I think you mentioned 3,000 hours of LAPD time. for Ocean View. How would the department recoup those resources, the funds? And then the other question is, is there any gaps as a result of having to pull department resources?
So currently, the city family is working with the city attorney's office to identify a means of holding the property owner accountable. It is my understanding that the owner of that complex is bankrupt, but who is the actual holder, if you will, of the deed or of the rights to that property? I do know that the city family is aggressively looking to recoup all costs, ours as well as others that are anticipated with that. Secondly, in regards to our deployment, this has strained our deployment. And what we have done is, when necessary to meet our minimum deployment, we have called and summoned in officers on an overtime basis so that we can do both, provide for these added patrols, or station them at that site so that they deter vandals and others from gaining access to it, while also ensuring that we meet the minimum deployment requirements for our stations across the city. So it is. I'll assure the public that we've not gone below our stated minimums, but this is a taxing impact on department deployment, and I know that the city family is meeting every day, including our department, to go over a timeline to address and remedy this situation as quickly as possible.
So we don't know, there's no timeline as to when our resources would be pulled.
It's my anticipation that I suspect that today's actions before the council will pass. I've spoken personally with Councilmember De Leon, whose district this is. We spoke just this last weekend on this. He's committed. I believe other council members are as well. I know the mayor is committed to getting us off of this work. But what's critical is this site. It's a multi-block site with these buildings, has about, I think, 2,000 linear feet of fencing that has been compromised over time by vandals to gain access into this building. Additionally, inside the building, it's a 30-story plus building. Is one of these buildings alone, is the as stairwells and access to, once you're on this tens of thousands of square foot lot, you then have the ability to access the various floors easily. The effort to remedy that will be twofold. One is to fortify the fence so that fence is not scalable and has not been breached or cut to allow access. Secondly is to physically barricade any floor above the second floor, so that should someone find themselves in that area, they don't have access to a building that then we have a very cumbersome process of trying to clear. It took about 80 police personnel, I think it was either last week or week before last, forgive me, I forget my passage of time here, to clear those three buildings over a course of an entire day. And so we want to, that building is inactive. There's absolutely no work being done in that building. There's no reason to have access above the initial floors. And we believe that barricade will assist that. Lastly, placing security there. There has been security there in the past. However, they've also had acts of violence there, intimidation by people who have gone and breached into that site, threatening them with physical violence. And so we believe that this process of everything I've just discussed is going to improve it, and then we'll move away from it. If we were to walk away from that today, that would be reoccupied in a matter of hours.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Commissioner Briggs?
Thank you, Commissioner Shields. Chief, it's been recently reported that the cities of San Francisco and Oakland law enforcement have now rethought Proposition 47. And law enforcement officials there have decided to come out to seek either its reversal or an amendment to it in order to increase the penalties for smash and grab theft, shoplifting, because those cities they're finding are being hollowed out by those types of crimes. What, if anything, are we, the department, doing towards those ends in terms of the reversal of Prop 47?
Thank you, Commissioner. So we are following potential legislative movements at the state level very closely. We do that a variety of means. We have legislative analysts that follow the various bills that are being proposed, and we speak with assemblymen and senators at the state level to provide feedback and information. We don't advocate or petition for particular bills. That's a matter for the city council by charter. However, we do point out that one of the most primary shortfalls of AB 47 is it's how it handles chronic offenders, recurring instances of individuals committing acts and having and that lack of consequences is both allowing them to continue that work, which adds to instances of safety, undermining public's confidence in the criminal justice system, and arguably attracting others into similar activity. We believe that any effort that identifies habitual chronic career criminals is one that is deserving of attention, and understanding that consequences such as felony prosecutions of chronic offenders that result in incarceration does a couple of different functions. It's a deterrent to others to come into this. It's a reassurance to the public that the criminal justice system works for everyone involved, and it provides the opportunity for the offender to be taken out of a community setting, which protects the community from further harm. So we remain committed to watching these developments as they go, and we certainly are available to talk with any elected official to give our perspective of information. But again, I'll go back to the city's position on legislative matters is that of the city council with leadership and influence by the mayor of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. We will now return to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment. Madam Secretary, can you call the next speaker?
Okay, on Zoom we have Jamie Cusick.
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good morning. For the first time ever, I feel that on some level, I can honestly say good morning in this space because this is the first time that you've deigned to call on me since the people of Los Angeles fired Chief Moore. Good morning and goodbye to this murderous racist cretin whose, quote, resignation was, incidentally, announced at pretty much the same instant that LAPD decided to claim to the liberal media that violent crime numbers went down, which speaks to the total arbitrariness of the stats on so-called criminal incidents. Those stats are lies. They contradict and undermine themselves week after week. And even if LAPD could be trusted to report on itself truthfully, which it cannot do, let's just keep in mind that crime itself is not real. The idea of crime is a social construct. It's a fabrication that enables you motherfuckers to claim that Black folks, unhoused folks, indigenous people, and everyone else who's been systematically robbed by the state require hyper-surveillance by the police. Crime isn't real, harm is real. Speaking of harm, fuck all the way off with that $45K donation you authorized last month to send your officers to the Women Police Officers and Associates Symposium. Literally, what could women officers possibly gain from that experience? What are they going to learn there? Are they going to somehow learn how to not have their nudes leaked by the misogynists they work with? On that note, nice job on getting another doxing investigation launched against you a couple of weeks ago. $45K is an obscene amount of money to spend on a pointless fucking conference, but to be clear, no amount of money could ever make LAPD a safe environment for women, let alone an inclusive or equitable work environment, because no institution that exists for the purpose of perpetrating violence can provide inclusivity or equity or safety for anyone. And even if you did somehow manage to prevent the dangerous infantile sexists you employ from sexually harassing their colleagues, which is not something that you pieces of shit have any genuine interest in preventing, that lack of sexual harassment would paradoxically only increase the misogyny and misogynoir perpetrated by your department, because it would further empower your female cops to terrorize the most vulnerable and most under-resourced women who live in LA. Among those women are the sex workers you're going after via this bullshit campaign against so-called sex trafficking. That prerogative has nothing to do with sex trafficking and everything to do with attacking, arresting, and disappearing sex workers. So fuck this DEI initiative to make female cops into better girl bosses of the police state. It's not feminism, it's fascism. Fuck the police, abolish LAPD. This is a sham meeting. I'll yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, Andrew Graebner.
All items, starting off with the chief's report, that should be limited to 3 minutes. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to match whatever time the chief takes. You know, he keeps talking about how crime's down, so why are you begging for more money and more cops? Like, crime's down, it keeps falling, but you keep putting this false narrative that, about out in public that crime is up, we need more cops, we need more money. Clearly crime's down, so why do we need more cops? Why do you need more money? Let's see, let's go on to the consent agenda. Let's see, we have donation, we have this grant. Yeah, we have the donations from the police foundation for $10,000 for a conference related to leadership or something. Interesting, since you all show no leadership and you're not going to show anymore with this $10,000 waste of money. We have that's training, so fuck that. Training's not going to solve anything. We need to just get rid of this whole system. We have B. That's another $4,000 for lunch. Where are you getting lunch from if it's $4,000? That's ridiculous. We have item B. $25,000 for a gym. At the police station, one police station, and $25,000. Why do you even need a gym in the first place? Just, tell them to do push-ups in the break room or go run around the perimeter of the police station or something. Most people don't have gyms. Why do you need the, $25,000 gym? Like, that's just blowing money down the drain. Speaking of blowing money down the drain, we have the compensation for Dominic Choi, $400,000. That's ridiculous. That's way too much. Maybe you can pay the police chief minimum wage so that the police chief understands the struggles of the people that are some of the most vulnerable people that the LAPD targets a lot. $400,000 is just ridiculous.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Chief's report, agenda items, and public comment, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Well, first, as everybody knows, I do support Chief Moore, even though it's now kind of bittersweet. Agenda items 3A, 3B, I totally support. And on public comment, I wish everybody could speak respectfully, get soap in their mouth. That's just not the way adults behave. Please let everybody be safe, be healthy, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. The next speaker, Tolan Stenson.
Hello, Chief Moore. I'd like to, the Attorney General, speak this. And, my son used my credit on my report, and it is a 3 credit bureau, and I brought the paper back down here to check on that because like, this is not right, you know. And Bank of America say I'm the third party, and they won't even answer my paperwork. And so I blame the assessors downtown at the mailroom, and Karen Bass, before she became mayor, I went to her office and gave her a lot of paperwork, and then they said that they're gonna help me out, and they didn't even do it. And I went through all the agency there was, and they found this, you know, the way I feel, they can't help what what they're doing here, you know what I mean? And you know, and I respect the Attorney General, and I respect Chief Moore, and I found that this should be dealt with and help the people, you know. That's where I feel, because I used to work for the city of Santa Monica for 22 and a half years, and I'll be 81 this year. And they says this, I never had this problem before. You know, my own son did all this stuff, and then it says, we are here to protect and serve. Okay, when I told the 77 to pick them up, they didn't do nothing, and it wasn't served at all. So, like, for instance, and I would like that to be investigated again, you know, because the assessor downtown at the mailroom, they're ripping people off there, you know, and I told the new mayor, Karen Bass, I told her, and she had all the paperwork, and then she said, well, you gotta go get a lawyer. I did all that stuff there, and then they said, all the lawyers just take your money. That's all you can, and I can't afford it, keep on paying for that, you know, and something need to be done with the assessor's office downtown and, at the mailroom, and then where who owns the property, they should be in trouble. And then it's all the way down in Norwalk, the same thing. How did you get the paperwork? It was mailed down there, and so like nobody don't understand that. And that's what's going on, Chief Moore, and the Attorney General, because you know I sent a lot of paperwork in there, and he's trying to explain to him. Then Bank of America said it's the third party. He wanted to see my son, and that's no. I bought that house in '77, you know, and I bought that house when he was 4 years old.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam Secretary, next speaker.
Next, we have Philip Tabby.
Okay, I got the paperwork, okay?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commission. I'd like to welcome our new interim chief, even though he's not here today, Chief Choi. I have heard nothing but positive things about the incoming interim chief. And even though he's an interim, Angelinos are hoping he'll make a clear and fair decisions while commanding the best law enforcement agency in the United States. The community looks forward to meeting him and opening a much needed line of communication. I'm hearing that his appointment is already well received by our officers and morale is #1. Choi will have big shoes to fill, as the last pair were purchased at a circus, but we're hoping incoming interim Chief Choi will make smart decisions and bring the respect of the office of the Chief of Police back. Chief Moore reminds me of someone in the past, J. Edgar Hoover, who would spy on his political subversives for his own gain, just like Moore did to Mayor Bass. At least the pattern and preponderance of evidence is clear. Wouldn't you agree, Mike? I'm sure looking forward to a better led LAPD. It couldn't come soon enough. Please work on community policing. The captain at Foothill needs many training classes on that, or just replace them. Talk to the CPAB there. That would be in your best interest. The people are #1, and please don't forget that. I liked hearing about reversing Prop 47. That was really interesting on the meeting today. and get rid of DEI. I think that Los Angeles is so diverse, we don't need to push DEI. God bless the LAPD. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker is Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Jonathan Foster. Get out my verbal chainsaw. I saw Eileen Deckers was in the building. I don't know if she's still here. And Eric Rivera had a green squirt gun. So I agree with a local voice. The chief did answer my question. Why not answer the other voices here? Because the concept was important to the chief, but other comments are not addressed. You can't selectively comment like selective enforcement. You have to answer all questions they were asked. I said head to toe body armor so the police don't die, and I meant that they are not shot by a gun. That's what I meant. Protecting officers to me is important, but there's other ways people can die. So that protects the public who didn't need to be shot. But what if a white plastic fork was something else that really could cause harm? How many seconds did it take when the officer saw something white? And how come there wasn't a net gun? I heard that they shot non-lethal. If they shot the net gun that I've requested for 6 years, this guy would be alive. The officer now has a new emotional charge. He's killed somebody. And I'm trying to stop that. It's bad training. Was he sleep deprived? Was he yawning? Was he sleep deprived? Was he inexperienced? You should have gone. You're the one with the most experience. You should have been the person who went to the call. Net gun reforms. And it's this intimate relationship with the trigger. Very intimate relationship. I want to know, so there's bad training. They need to be 5 years of gun training, 5 years. You can't be president until you're age 35. You shouldn't be able to yield a gun as a police officer until you're age 35. So you can't kill anybody unless you're 35 years old. You can't be sleep deprived. You can't be inexperienced. The chief should have gone. There was less lethal, so they did try. You should have had a net gun. Was the officer, did he take a blood test? Was he on 5-hour energy? How much caffeine? Was he on a Red Bull or a Monster? Did he shoot one time? How many stimulants was the officer on? And I'm saying this to protect the officers, to get them out of this, because I support the LAPD. I support them. But when it's wrong, I have to call it out, because we're talking about death, not I ran through a stop sign.
Next, we have Hamid Khan.
Hi, all item, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Well, first of all, I wanted to just went back into that whole chronic offender language as well, because old habits die hard. And this was after using this whole process of chronic offender and perpetual offender and this, that, and the other. We saw immense amount of harm out of the laser program, part of the predictive policing that was shut down because of community organizing. And all he had to say was that this was an experiment that really, just messed up a whole lot of lives. The second thing about the body camera video release is that this is so Hollywoodized that you can't tell heads to tail, but what you can do is that exactly what we have always been saying, that body cameras basically are a tool for the police to look good. They're a tool to protect them from liability as well. So there is no raw footage, so we don't really just even accept any sort of thing that is coming out of the body camera, because it's all doctored. It's all manipulated. It's with this background sort of commentary and all of that. So this is all just to show and tell. And then apparently Dominic Choi's salary is going to be discussed today as well. Well, in 2022, his package was $529,000. If that gives people any sense a regular pay of $317,170, other pay $42,000, health benefits $20,000, retirement benefits almost $149,000. So this is what we have, almost $529,000 and $530,000 going to them. And lastly, just LAPD is going to be making a presentation on Black History Month. What they will not talk about is the real history on the ground. Like, let's not even go way back, but even post Watts uprising and all of that, the brutality and the violence. Then the trash unit that was formed, trash with a T, which was then turned to the crash unit. Then Operation Hammer, broken windows policing, gang injunctions, suspicious activity reporting, predictive policing, community, on and on and on. That is the real history of the Black History Month in Los Angeles. I mean, we even listed about 77 of individuals, which is an incomplete list. This is what we could find through homicide reports and various police reports as well, that have been murdered, Black people who've been murdered by the LAPD since 2007. And when you come do the math, it's almost every 6 to 8 weeks, LAPD has murdered a Black person in the city of Los Angeles. Just all the way from going back to Philip Miller to Keenan Anderson and on, and so many people in there. So I think this is the real history that needs to be shared. This is the real history of LAPD in the Black History Month that people of Los Angeles are used to. And we're not talking about the physical violence, the emotional violence, the no human involved category, and various other things that what the history of LAPD has been.
The next speaker is Jason Reedy.
Okay, so I'll start with Caleb Garcia Alamia, the murderer of Jason McConney. Interesting that you didn't want to say his name earlier when you're giving your update on the shooting. Why did the LAPD release the name of Jason's killer on a Friday at 6 p.m.? Any insight from our astute commissioners? Moore sat here last week and said, barring any threat to the officer's safety, their name would be released after the 72-hour briefing, which happened last Tuesday at 2:14 p.m. So Moore should speak on why there was a delay in releasing the name. What was the safety risk that required an additional 3 days of anonymity? Would you like to speak on that, Moore? Would you, any of the commissioners would like to comment on why there was that delay? There shouldn't have been one. We will continue to expose killer cop Caleb Garcia Alamia, a former Marine. So he had plenty of training on killing people. And the class president of 323. All that talk about training, and it took your rookie less than 6 months on the job to murder someone. Now, to the hands-off Rafah emergency action that was held by Palestinian Youth Movement outside the Wilshire Federal Building in West LA yesterday, LAPD arrested 4 protesters at the action. No mention of it today. So why were 2 taken to Metro and another 2 taken to Van Nuys, given that they were arrested in West LA? Quite a distance to travel. This department is known for playing mind games. I remember during the uprising, the George Floyd uprising, when I was arrested here in downtown LA and taken to a field jail at Jackie Robinson Stadium at UCLA, was held there for 2 hours, and then brought back down to Metro to be processed on a bus for about 6 hours, no food, no water, no access to bathroom. Anyways, so you guys play mind games. I want to note that even at the Oceanside Plaza, the abandoned high-rise building that LAPD has chosen to guard with their lives, chosen to dedicate 3,000 hours so far of your time, of our time that we're paying you. You arrested 4 people and ended up citing and releasing 3 of them. So you should answer as to why you decided to keep 4 protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, throughout much of the night, and why it was necessary to transport them to the other side of the city. Speaking of the arrest of 4 people at that abandoned high-rise building, shortly after this commission meeting last week, video was released of your elite, what you call your elite, Metro Division descending on that building and clearing it as if it had been taken over by mercenaries, by pirates or something. Would this qualify as dignitary security that you list as one of the primary responsibilities of the Metro Division? Again, Moore, you tweeted out that our people remain at the site as the city mobilizes resources to remove the graffiti and fortify the location. All of this is an effort to avoid a tragic fall or other calamity. This isn't art, it's a crime. But you don't talk about how a building standing vacant for 5 years while 6 people die in the street as a crime.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. Madam Secretary, please call the next witness, next
We have
speaker.
Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers.
Mr. Reedy.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to congratulate Chief Choi on his appointment as interim chief. We have high hopes for him. We hope he will take decisive action to improve LAPD morale. On a human level, I wish Chief, should I say bended knee? I'll say Chief Moore. The two big mistakes I think you made, Chief Moore, was the bending of the knee and also the removing of the blue line flag, the American flag, from the lobby of the police station. You still have time to rectify that and to make a decisive, decisive statement on those issues. But I do wish you the best in your retirement and with your family. We may not have agreed at times, but always I respect the office of the chief of police. And again, when you did the right thing, I commended you. And when you did something I thought was wrong, I called it out. Crime is real. If anyone here doesn't believe that crime is real, talk to the victims, okay? Talk to the victims and find out how their life has been impacted by crime. When you have more police officers on the streets of the city, they reduce the fear and incidence of crime. That is well established. We have too few police officers. They're overworked, and quite frankly, community policing is not being implemented to the degree that it needs to be to make up for that low number of police officers. You should have about 12,500. 8,900 or so is way below what it should be, and it's at a level that's dangerous for the public. The public has to realize that. The public has to get involved. You have to make it easier for them to get involved. This meeting being at 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, it should be changed to the evening. You saw how many people showed up in Watts in what was really a historical meeting where a diverse community showed up and you got to hear from the real people, not professional activists, from the real people. And that was really something that should be done on a regular basis. I understand there will be a future meeting in another bureau. Can you tell us where that's going to be, where and when? Give people as much time, lead time as possible. In the beginning of the meeting, I totally agree with the first speaker. Now, how the first speaker could speak without hearing the chief's report first, I thought was a little bit strange, but okay. Maybe there was nothing to say on behalf of the police commission today. But you also should maybe read a preamble on what the Brown Act is and what it allows and what it doesn't allow, because some people are confused by that. And when somebody claps, I heard VP Shields call out Mr. Foster and say to refrain from clapping. Doesn't he have the First Amendment right to express his affirmation of the speaker? That's not disrupting the meeting. That's just expressing a very brief affirmation. God bless the LAPD. Happy Lunar New Year, which was Saturday. And I hope that everyone stays safe and do what you can.
The next speaker is Megan.
Today, you'll hear a presentation honoring Black History Month. I would like to read a partial list of the names of Black people killed by LAPD since 2007. It's a partial list. I won't be able to get all the way through it. Philip Miller, 43. Matthew Powell, 24. Marcellus Wright, 25. Antonio Bland, 25. Ronald Ball, 60. Jamar Witherspoon, 18. Derek Ford, 20. Aaron Borden, 26. Glenn Boldware, 47. Ronald Boone, 20. Maurice Leroy Cox, 38. Lawrence Smith, 24. Jesse Moore, 56. Dante Story Jr., 29. Sammy Lee Richardson, 59. Jesse DeMarcus Long, 19. Orrin Eugene Douglas III, 37. Wilson James Victorian, 59. Robert Brown, 84. Stephen Eugene Washington, 27. Donovan Morris, 34. James Davis, 18. Shannon Lamont Hayes, 38. Kevin Lind Wooten, 23. Denary Lamont Fowler, 19. Reginald Doucet Jr., 25. Earl Bernard Rhodes, 48. Roger Christopher Williams, 41. Brenda Mae Williams, 57. Dale Garrett, 51. Maurice Charles Shepard, 55. Keith D. Watkins, 40. Daryl Leonard Logan, 32. Lee Dyrell Jefferson, 23. Vachelle Howard Sr., 56. Edward Eugene Clark, 28. Christian Leonard Eady, 25. Patrick Othro Sullivan, 74. Paul Smith, 58. Kenny Clinton Walker, 23. Daniel Christopher Gilu, 29. James Renee White Jr., 21. Samuel Lee Johnson, 45. Ezell Earl Ford, 25. Andre Morris Jones, 37. Carrie Eric Wesson, 53. Alphonse Edward Perkins, 50.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Next, we have caller ending 1264. Caller ending 1264, you're on. Okay, move on to the next.
The next speaker is Audrey.
How appropriate it is that LAPD, who has criminalized and brutalized and sought to contain and control and remove Black people from the city, is making a presentation about Black History Month. Thank you, Megan, for giving us something of a Black History review, and thank you to Hamid for also doing that from a different perspective. Why was somebody with a plastic fork murdered by LAPD? Is it a surprise to you that it's because you hired a former Marine who was trained in the opposite of de-escalation? That video, although it may interest a lot of people and should be shown, is not going to change the fact that recruitment from the military is the opposite, will achieve the opposite of any pretense you have of achieving de-escalation as your policy. To the Mark Smith lookalike who is standing in for him today, clone, I have never heard word one about any investigation. Mark Smith once spoke to a group upon his movement into that role, spoke to a group about how the focus was going to be on transparency. Why is it that the OIG never makes a comment, a report? I never hear any of you speak one word at these meetings. I never hear any news or audits or anything about these things that you get, when the LAPD kills people without weapons, having mental health crises. These are things you're supposed to be investigating, I would think, and we don't hear anything about it. I wanted to talk about all the manpower being assigned for smash and grabs and Oceanside graffiti. It shows what the LAPD is really here to do: protect wealthy people's property. That should be on the wall here. We are here to protect and serve wealthy people's property. The hell with actual people and their lives and the harm that we do with our violence. Also, I wanted to bring up how arbitrarily you enforce rules.
Thank you, ma'am. Next
Next,
speaker.
we have T.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
All of them, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Power and strength to the families have their loved ones killed by LAPD. You know, it's really unconscionable that, you know, anyone could be holding, especially targeted Black and brown folks, could be holding a plastic fork maybe after eating a meal and be targeted by y'all and let alone killed. It's unacceptable and we need real accountability. You know, I'm on this meeting, I'm usually on it every week, and I've had some small breaks in between, but nothing has changed. Even if I'm not on 1 week, nothing has changed. No accountability has been rendered to the families that have been traumatized and impacted by the evil that this entity continues to commit, and y'all are protected by ALADS, the fake union, right? That backs y'all whenever y'all commit murder out here. And you're still able to walk free, go home to your families, and live your life while you've decimated other families, right? And then you still continue to get more money. Every agenda item is asking for more money, and we say no to every agenda item. And we say no to the $500,000 salary for the new chief. No, not when we have endless amount of homeless people that need resources, especially in Black and brown communities. And you're talking about some property. Moore doesn't even know who owns it. Y'all don't even know it. You're deploying 80 LAPD members to facilitate security. That should be private security, not our tax dollars going to protect some property. And how about this? Why doesn't Mayor Bass, since y'all don't know who it is, find out who owns the building and convert it into housing for our houseless brothers and sisters, right? With services. Why not convert that building into something useful instead of 1 to 5 people dying on the streets a day, like baby Yara? Baby Yara, a child died this year, right? At the bus stop near LAX because they didn't have proper housing. I'm just sick to my stomach. This is an evil entity. It needs to end. And we need real solutions. And LAPD is not the solution. Housing is a solution. Healthcare is the solution, right? Providing resources to our Black and
The next speaker is Adam S.
All items, please. Continuing to think about what it looks like for this department and this room to celebrate Black History Month, I'm going to continue where Megan left off, knowing that this list is not complete. On March 1st, 2015, on 6th and San Pedro, Officer Francisco Martinez, who's since been elevated and promoted to senior lead officer in the financial district, shot unarmed, unhoused, Charlie Kunang, Africa, age 43. On May 6, 2016, 31-year-old, unhoused, father, unarmed, Brendan Glenn, was murdered by LAPD officer Clifford Proctor. Jason Henley, 29. Rodell Jones, 30, If I remember correctly, Riddell stood at a powerful 5'1" when she was executed by multiple police officers. Richard Che Risher, 18. Kenny Watkins, 18, shot in the back inside as he tried to flee. Carnell Snell Jr., 18. Ryan Joseph, 20. Solomon Picart, 37. Grishario Mack, murdered in the Crenshaw Baldwin Hills Mall, age 30, father of 2. Shot with a high-powered rifle, executed with 2 final shots by now Lieutenant Ryan Lee, who keeps getting promoted, who was on Chief Moore's DEI team in 2020. Albert Ramon Dorsey, unarmed, murdered inside of a fucking gym in Hollywood, also a father. Lasseri James Frazier Jr., 21. Nathaniel Pinnock, 22, unhoused, murdered in the middle of Hollywood in the middle of the day. Kevin Carr, 23. Randy Miller, 55. Matthew Paul Blaylock, 38. Rudy Modell Anderson, 45. LaRon Howard James, 54. Angela Sharice Malankin, 45. Reginald Humphrey, 31. Takar Smith, 45. His wife called for help. The mother of his children called for help and was fucking murdered by this police department. Michael Meadows, 45. Jessica Denise Brown, 35. Keenan Darnell Anderson, teacher, 31. Tased to death in the middle of Venice. Billy Anthony Stribling, 56, last June. All of you should be fucking ashamed that you sit up here and legitimate this shit. Call your next witness. Don't smile at me.
The next speaker is Michelle D.
I want to thank both Adam and Megan for reading the names. I did research for several years, collecting these names and reading the reports. We are the only ones who care about these victims. We come here week after week expressing our care and our concern for the victims of police violence. How come violent crime is down and police shootings are up? Doesn't make any sense to me. And now you want to bring out more cops and bring out more enforcement for these petty crimes. And you know what? Did you learn anything from the law that we had passed? Now I'm blanking out on it, but 25 years to life for stealing a couple of videos at a store because you had 3 strikes? Didn't you learn anything? And if you enforce this kind of a law against people because they're repeat offenders, all you're going to do is being imprisoning more and more and more people for nothing. Think about the people who are on the police force who are actual murderers. And I don't care if the video comes out about this killing. I really don't care. You know I've been saying for weeks, 3-inch knives? Okay, your spouses better be careful at home. Pull out a knife and your spouse who's a police officer may just gun you down. Now plastic forks. We have to warn everybody who goes to a picnic or who has a plastic fork. If the cops show up, you're in danger because they think that's a deadly weapon. But I've read some of the way that these cops report these crimes. They repeat phrases because they have it all staged, just like they staged these videos. They will repeat phrases like, oh, the person held their hand in a way that looked like it might be a gun. And that's supposed to justify killing a person. No weapon at all. You cops should not be going to Skid Row. Skid Row is not a place for cops. People get exacerbated, get frustrated, get excited when they see cops because they're a danger to their lives and they know it. Just like people who are going through any kind of mental or whatever kind of breakdown they're having, they're not going to respond to cops in a.
Thank you. Next speaker. And
Thank
we're
you. The final speaker is Donald Harlan.
Hi, I'm Donald Harlan. I'd like to speak on the report by the chief and the general comment. I wanted to start with who owns the building over there that's being tagged up across from Staples Center. Oceanwide doesn't own that building, and Evergrande doesn't own that building. Neither of them own that building. 100% for sure, anybody involved in the development of that property has done so unlawfully. And they're the ones that should pay for that, whether it's a city council member or somebody in LAPD or whoever that, even if it's the president of the United States, make them pay. I don't like what's going on here in LAPD. The police commission, you guys look like a bunch of goblins. You know, if you go from being a mutant to a monster, that's not normal evolution, and you people definitely aren't normal. There's a lot of intentional crimes committed by this chief of police and the police commission. There's crimes against property, crimes against people, and attempts to create nuisance. I wanted to remind you that you can bring full enforcement against trespass crimes. That I'll make sure that it's covered in the city, that you guys send people to jail for that kind of stuff and have them, also those people who run with stolen documents and commit real estate fraud and try and sell real estate that's not theirs, or get on even if they get on TV and say, "Oh, I believe this building belongs to Evergrande." That's a misappropriation and misrepresentation, purposefully done. You can charge them a crime for that, indict them for that. Yeah, I really upset about what's going on here in LAPD. I've warned you that seeing all those crimes you committed here, that you would no longer be able to work in any of my cities, counties, or states, or even in Oregon, if I own that part of Oregon where you're trying to live, you're no longer welcome there. I would consider all your time here a trespass.
Thank you. That concludes item 2, public comment period. We will now move on to item 3, the consent agenda items. Do any of the commissioners have any questions with regards to items A through C of the consent agenda items? Okay, no questions. I move that we adopt the reports in items 3A through C and take the actions taken reflected in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All commissioners in favor? Say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. We'll now move on to item number 4, the regular agenda item. Captain McIntyre, the department's verbal presentation and discussion in recognition of Black History Month.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Good morning, Commissioners, Chief, and all. I am Curtis McIntyre, the Commanding Officer of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division. Alongside me, I have
Mr. Smith, you are welcome to stay, but please do not disrupt this presentation. And that goes for everyone here. You're welcome to stay.
Next to me, I have Lieutenant Aaron Burns Johnson.
Okay, I'm sorry, Captain. For the people present, you've already had an opportunity to have public comment. If you Mr. Smith, that is your first warning, and you will be asked to leave if you continue. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Smith, you are now being asked to leave. If you will not leave voluntarily, we will have you removed. Captain McIntyre, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Mr. Reedy, thank you, and please leave the meeting now. And I apologize to everyone listening on the kind of hateful speech that is being said. So, Captain McIntyre, please continue.
Thank you. Black History Month serves as a time to acknowledge and honor the contributions and achievements of African Americans throughout history, recognizing their impact on all facets of American society and culture. Black history in the LAPD began in the 1800s, during a time where racial segregation and discrimination were pervasive in American society. African Americans faced barriers to employment in law enforcement. However, officers Robert W. Stewart and Joseph Henry Green overcame those barriers to become the department's first black officers in March of 1889. In the early 20th century, African Americans experienced a gradual integration into law enforcement roles. Their opportunities were frequently confined to lower ranking positions, and they encountered racial bias and inequality within the department. Despite these systemic challenges, a few African Americans managed to break barriers in law enforcement. In 1916, Georgia Ann Robinson became the first female black officer in the department, while Jessie Kimbrough, initially reserve officer, ascended to the ranks to retire as a detective lieutenant in 1939. If you look at the slides, there's a couple of notable other figures. First detective captain, one of the first black police commissioners in 1946, and the first female black patrol sergeant, Vivian Strange. The civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s had a significant impact on the gradual advancement of racial integration within law enforcement agencies, including the LAPD. The quest for equal employment opportunities gained momentum during the transformative era. Jesse Brewer joined the department in 1952, achieved a historic milestone by becoming LAPD's first black deputy chief in 1981, and later the assistant chief in 1987. Another noteworthy figure was Lieutenant Tom Bradley, who joined the department in 1940 and retired in 1963 to be elected as a city council member. The 1960s marked a pivotal moment in the recruitment of black Americans into law enforcement. The LAPD, like many other police agencies, faced heightened pressure to diversify its ranks. Although efforts were made to hire more black American officers, challenges persisted, including issues of discrimination, bias treatment within the department.
Things began to change when Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. This included Title VII, which stated no person employed by a company covered by Title VII or applying to work for that company can be denied employment or treated differently with regard to any workplace decision on the basis of perceived racial, religious, national, sexual, or religious characteristics. This was important because on August 20th, 1973, Sergeant Fanshawn Blake, a white female sergeant with LAPD, sued the City of Los Angeles, the Board of Civil Service Commissioners, and then Chief Edward M. Davis for employment discrimination based on sex in violation of Title VII. The initial federal judge sided with LAPD, but that decision was reversed by the Ninth Circuit Appellate Court, stating that the police department did in fact violate Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. This decision resulted in the Blake Justice Consent Decree. The decree set long-range employment goals for women, blacks, and Hispanics, and modified obstacles to promotion. In 1981, Marion Hellenkamp made history as the first female black to promote to lieutenant, breaking another brass ceiling. In 1984, the city's personnel rules were changed, resulting in then Chief Darrell Gates implementing procedures for the rule of 3 whole score for entry-level hires and promotions for detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. The higher scores would be promoted first and in order, eliminating the possibility of subjectivity and favoritism. In 1992, Willie Williams made history as the LAPD's first black chief of police, and in 1997, Bernard C. Parks became the first black chief of police to be selected from within the ranks of LAPD. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the implementation of diversity initiatives marked a significant milestone for the department, particularly in the advancement of black sworn personnel. The 21st century witnessed a series of historic achievements for civilian and sworn personnel, beginning with Ann Young becoming the department's first black captain, female captain, in April 2000. In 2003, Bridget Peterson became the first black female motor officer. In 2005, Rhonda Sims Lewis became the first black police administrator 3. In 2011, Regina Scott broke new ground as the first female black commander, and in 2018, she further made history as the first female black deputy chief. In 2011, Sergeant Jaretta Sandos became the first black director elected to the Los Angeles Police Protective League, otherwise known as the LAPPL. In 2022, Sergeant Norma Kirkpatrick achieved a groundbreaking feat by becoming the first black female supervisor pilot.
Historically, the Los Angeles Police Department has faced challenges in fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. However, the department has made great strides aligning the demographics of the workforce with the diversity of the communities we serve. As of today, approximately 9% of the sworn personnel and around 18% of the civilian personnel within the department are of African American descent, reflecting a commitment to fostering diversity and inclusion. This is evident in our current composition of our command staff, with 14 sworn personnel of African American descent holding the rank of captain or above. This constitutes 12% of the esteemed command staff. And some of those people, I don't know if we skipped the slide, Chief Amado Tingarides, Chief Alan Hamilton, and Chief Warrior at the top of the command ranks there. It is also crucial to acknowledge the civilian roles within the LAPD. They should not be overshadowed by their sworn counterparts, as both components play integral roles in ensuring public safety. The expertise, dedication, and specialized contribution of civilian staff are indispensable to the overall effectiveness of the police department. Recognizing and appreciating the diverse skills within the civilian workforce enhances our collective ability to serve and protect the community. There are currently approximately 150 civilian classifications ranging from administrative support to specialized functions. Here are some of those notable civilians that are on our department. We have 2 police psychologists, Dr. Buffalo, Dr. Mars, as well as Director of Information Systems, Toyin, Information Systems Manager, Monique Turner, even Police Commission, Sarah Bell. That are some of the notable people on our department that are civilian African American civilians. Next slide. And then where the majority of the African American civilians are employed, you got the detention officers at 50, admin clerks at 49, PSRs and senior PSRs at 99. That's where the majority of the civilian African American staffs are employed. And we could not function without these integral parts of our department.
So this just speaks to the dual pillars of DEI. The first one is the introspective examination. That's more the internal. And the external is going to be the community engagement, partnership, and collaboration. For the internal, basically what that is us looking at our policies, procedures, and practices to see where we can make improvements. Part of that would be the climate study that was recently completed by UCLA. It was released. We're in the process of reviewing that. But there are some interesting notations in there about the experience of African American sworn and civilian personnel in the department. So we're in the process of doing some follow-up meeting with UCLA to discuss some of the findings and recommendations. In terms of external, that's about our community engagement, partnerships, and collaboration, which Captain McIntyre will touch on shortly.
Yeah, so part of some of our strategic goals is building community trust and partnership, and we do this with young adult dinner dialogues, with our partnership across the street, Civil and Human Rights and Equity Department. We also have a steering committee. It was originally just for RIPA. It's going to be expanded to include DEI initiatives as well. And then another goal is to promote DEI in recruitment and advancement for personnel. This is done with going to cultural events for recruitment, partnerships with CSPB, diversifying the materials for recruitment, as well as collaborating with affinity groups for mock orals and mentorship. There's also one to incorporate DEI initiatives and promote the promotional process. This has been done not only with the internally with the our personnel division, but also personnel department, or it's a part of the actual process of asking the questions and incorporating DEI initiatives. And then lastly, it is the decentralization of those commitments and the DEI principles and implementing DEI coordinators at the divisional level. And so that's coming this year as well. And so lessons learned from doing this presentation. More inclusion for civilian achievements. We realized there just wasn't enough there memorialized. Understanding the past to better prepare for the future. Continue the collaboration with affinity groups. That's ongoing. We're doing that probably weekly. I'm on the phone with OJB and LEAP and so on and so forth. And then, like I said, the expansion of that steering committee to include DEI initiatives is what we're doing out of the DEI office.
Okay. And I'll be reading a couple of things on behalf of OJB. Unfortunately, the president could not be here, but she did give me some notes to read to you. So during the last year, the Oscar Joel Bryant Foundation continued to seek out new opportunities to engage members of enhancing the organization's career development programs, expanding the number of social events that allow members to be in community with one another, and deepening their partnership with the department and other affinity groups as they collectively implement diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies. As it relates to career development, OJB partnered with South Traffic Division to reinvigorate their motor interview preparation seminars. Each of OJB's 5 directors at the rank of lieutenant joined with other affinity groups leadership to serve as panelists on the Career Development Unit's recent mock oral boards. And as it relates to social gatherings, togetherness, and celebrations, OJB partnered with a variety of other African American organizations from across the city family for the annual Ebony Reunion, Scholarship Luncheon, Juneteenth celebration, and the Holiday Ball.
And another additional note from the President, Shannon White. OJB is immensely grateful to Chief Moore for the foundation that he laid during his tenure. We are confident that Chief Choi's strength of character and vision for the department's future will help us advance that foundational work for his time as our Chief of Police. And so she wanted to end with that note. So thank you. And that concludes our presentation. Any questions?
Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to my commissioners. Commissioner Briggs.
Thank you, and thank you for a wonderful presentation. I think it's important that we highlight the contributions that African Americans have made to not only this department, but to our city, to their own communities, and to public safety. And what you've done today is to illustrate that with clear examples of how our people have contributed to this city and to public safety. You've also demonstrated how this department has evolved from the very beginning to where we are now. I mean, when this department started off, the thought of a black person participating in the department was unheard of. And then you, through your slides, have shown where we have risen to the ranks of Chief of Police in this department. And that basically shows not only our community, but all communities, how accessible and how diverse LAPD is. So I want to thank you both for a wonderful presentation today, particularly during this month when we're recognizing the contributions that have been made by African Americans through our country as well. I do have some questions for you. You pointed out that there were approximately 800 total African American officers. What percent of the total LAPD sworn officers are Black Americans?
It's approximately 9%.
Does that demographically represent where we are in terms of the city?
Yes.
Great. And then I know that you alluded to the UCLA climate study.
Yes.
You said that there were some concerns there, or that there were some issues there. Can you just give us a preview? Just, slide back the shade just a bit so that we can see a preview of what's going on.
From what I've read, and I haven't gotten to completely read through the entire document, but there are things that we hear all the time from our informal conversations that I've had with other African American officers. And there are things that speak to, let's say, not feeling fully accepted by their peers, feeling alienated since 2020 particularly. So it's nothing new that I've read that I haven't heard yet, but we still have to dive a little bit deeper into that document to see if we can uncover some other things.
But it highlights the fact that the department has work to do, that we still have work to do within our own department, the city at large as well, in order for folks to be fully accepted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's that duality of being a police officer and being African American as well. So, family members being supportive or lacking support of this profession. So there's things like that that came up in the study that.
And we saw it demonstrated today by a member of our community on his way out.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Kalanche.
Just want to thank you for the presentation and the research that you provided us, highlighting the struggles and the achievements of African American police officers. Thank you again. I hope that we take this month to celebrate all the accomplishments and all that we have to do as well. But thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And, a couple of things that I've taken away from this presentation, and thank you again for that. One, we're still making history in the sense of first accomplishments happening as recently as 2022. And so, again, that shows the evolving nature of this process. And, going back to the UCLA climate study, I just want all of the officers to know that anyone feeling alienated, this is something that the commission is very attuned to and very concerned about, and want to make sure that everyone has all of the resources available so that the department operates in the most inclusive way, and so that there are no barriers for anyone to excel within the department. And, highlighting many of the individuals that you highlighted on the screen, unfortunately, they were the first, but some of them had to leave the department because they didn't get the promotions that they may have been entitled to. And so we don't want any of that to ever happen again, and we want to learn from our history. So thank you for highlighting that and for this presentation. Chief, do you want to make any final remarks before we conclude this portion?
So I want to thank both of these individuals as well as Captain White. During my tenure, I have seen a tremendous growth within all of our employee-affiliated groups to really partner with the department in our collective effort to build on our diversity, our equity, to overcome the barriers. We are a microcosm of our society, which means in this climate survey that was recently done by UCLA, there is, to Commissioner Briggs' point, there is much work to be done in resolving instances of a feeling of separateness, of being devalued, or positions being overly stated or represented or meant to be representative of the entire organization when they're not. So it's not all green pastures, but yet I want to reflect when we hear today about the successes that we are seeing and the representation we see across this organization. And our commitment is to continue that. And I'm sure Chief Choi is going to do that as well. This last year, 12% of our recruitment were African American candidates. And while that did not meet our goal, it continues to address the fact that we recognize that this aspect of the department's representation is an area that needs to be continue to be invested in. And that includes removing barriers and also identifying to all of our communities that this is a department that welcomes people from all walks of life, from all corners of our society, and that there's a role for them to make a difference in this department and really make a difference in building public trust. So thank you again for this. It's a great presentation, and it's also that walk down memory lane, shows how far we've gone, but we didn't come this far to only come this far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you both again.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And that concludes item number 4 on the agenda. So the board will now go into closed session to conclude items number 5A, 1, and 2. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 5A1 and 2 in accordance to Government Code 54957.
Okay, we are back from concluding our closed session items, and we'll have the report out by the Executive Director.
Item 5A1, canine contact number 009-23. Commission on a 3-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the Chief of Police, which were canine deployment consistent with established criteria, canine contact consistent with established criteria, post-canine contact procedures consistent with established criteria. Item 5A2, officer-involved shooting number 010-23. Excuse me, Commission on a 3-0 vote adopted the recommendations of the Chief of Police, which were tactics, tactical debrief, 2 police officer 2s, 2 police officer 1. Drawing exhibiting in policy, 2 police officer 2s, 2 police officer 1s. Lethal use of force in policy, 1 police officer 2, 2 police officer 1s. That concludes the report out.
Thank you, Mr. Tiefank. I now move that we adjourn this meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We are adjourned.